Just 2 days ago, something happened that Russia never saw coming. Over 400 drones, flying straight at Moscow. Not a border town, not some faraway military base. Moscow itself, the capital, the one place Vladimir Putin always promised his people would stay untouched by this war. And it worked. Airports shut down, oil shipments stopped, sirens blared through the night. And for a few terrifying hours, the Russian capital looked less like the heart of a global superpower and more like a city under siege. This is the story of the night Ukraine did the unthinkable, and the days after when Russia is still scrambling to figure out what just hit them. Let's set the scene. It's the night of July 19th, going into July 20th, 2026. Most people in Moscow are asleep, or just settling in for the night. Then Moscow's own mayor, Sergei Sobyanin, starts posting on social media. Drones heading toward the city. Not 5, not 20. According to Russian officials themselves, more than 400 drones aimed at Moscow region in a single night. Think about that number for a second. 400. That is one of the largest waves ever sent at the Russian capital in this entire war. Sobyanin kept posting update after update, 11 messages in total, each one reporting a few more drones shot down. 7 here, 21 there. By morning, Russian officials claimed they had intercepted about 80 of them close to the city. But here's the thing about claiming you shot most of them down. It still doesn't mean nothing got through, and on this night, plenty did. Sheremetyevo, Vnukovo, Domodedovo, and Zhukovsky. Those are Moscow's 4 major airports. All 4 of them had to suspend flights in the middle of the night because of the drone threat. Imagine that happening in a country that constantly tells its own people that everything is under control. Planes grounded, passengers stuck, all because of drones that Russian officials insist mostly get shot down anyway. And it wasn't just the sky over Moscow that got hit. Drones struck the Wildberries Logistics Center in Podolsk, a town in the Moscow region. If that name sounds familiar, it should. This is the same company, Russia's biggest online retailer, whose warehouses got hammered just days earlier in a different attack. Ukraine is coming back for the same targets again and again, and that alone should tell you something. This isn't random. This is a pattern. Then there's the oil. A tanker called the Nelsa was loading oil at a terminal when a drone attack hit it. This came right after that same terminal had only just resumed shipments following an earlier strike. So picture this. Russia gets hit, pauses operations, starts back up again, and gets hit a second time within days. That is not a one-off accident. That is Ukraine circling back to make sure the damage sticks. On top of all that, residents in Moscow Oblast were warned about a missile threat and possible internet disruptions. Internet disruptions in Moscow. The city that likes to project total strength to the rest of the world was quietly telling its own people to expect their phones and computers to stop working properly, just in case. This is what scrambling actually looks like. Not just soldiers panicking on a battlefield somewhere far away, but a capital city's airports, oil terminals, and internet all getting rattled in the same 12 hours. Now, you might be thinking, why would Ukraine throw everything it has at Moscow right now? To understand that, you have to rewind just 1 day earlier, because Russia had just landed one of the worst blows of the entire war on Kyiv. In the early hours of July 19th, Russia fired more than 40 ballistic missiles at Ukraine's capital in under an hour. 40 missiles in under 60 minutes. Ukraine's own foreign minister called it the largest ballistic missile barrage aimed at Kyiv since the war began, back in 2022. That's over 4 years of war, and this was still the worst one Kyiv had ever taken from ballistic missiles alone. Ballistic missiles are brutal for one simple reason. They move incredibly fast, way faster than drones or regular cruise missiles, and they need special defense systems like the American-made Patriot to have any real chance of being stopped. Ukraine has said again and again that it simply does not have enough Patriots to go around. So when 40 of these come screaming down at once, a lot of them are going to get through no matter how good your defenses are. And they did get through. At least one person was killed, 16 more were wounded. Nearly 600 emergency workers had to rush across the city, from one impact site to the next, putting out fires and pulling people from wrecked buildings. In one neighborhood, rescue workers pulled 4 people out of a burning private home. In another, they climbed into a burning 3-story building to get residents out. A supermarket got hit. A dormitory got hit. Even part of an ancient cathedral complex, the Kyiv-Pechersk Lavra, suffered damage from the strikes and the drones that came with them. One resident named Vlad told reporters he was standing inside his own apartment when the blast tore his balcony door clean off and it slammed into his head. That's not a soldier on a front line somewhere. That's a guy standing in his living room. So now you can see the full picture. Russia hits Kyiv with its worst ballistic missile barrage of the entire war. And less than 48 hours later, Ukraine answers back with one of the largest drone swarms Moscow has ever faced. Back and forth, blow for blow. Except, this time, Ukraine's response didn't just hit a border region. It hit the capital, the airports, the oil supply, and the internet infrastructure of the country that started this war in the first place. And Moscow wasn't even the only place getting hit around the same time. Down south, near the port city of Odessa, Russia struck a cargo ship flying the flag of Guinea-Bissau, killing at least 10 people. That ship was carrying corn, with a crew from India and Syria. 8 crew members were rescued. According to the regional governor, strikes in the Odessa region have now killed 28 people just in the month of July alone. Some days saw more than a dozen air raid alerts in a single region. Just think about living somewhere where you might hear over a dozen air raid sirens between sunrise and sunset, over and over, day after day. So here's where things stand. Russia is battering Ukrainian ports and cities with some of its heaviest missile barrages of the entire war. Ukraine is answering with drone swarms bigger and deeper than almost anything it has ever sent into Russian territory. Neither side is backing down, and the intensity keeps climbing on both ends. But let's zoom out even further, because this Moscow attack didn't come out of nowhere. It's part of a much bigger shift that's been building for months. Just a few weeks earlier, in a completely separate strike, Ukrainian drones hit 2 massive Wildberries warehouses hundreds of miles inside Russia, in towns called Kotovsk and Elektrostal. 9 people were killed there. Zelensky said those warehouses were secretly being used to bring in banned components for building drones and navigation systems. That attack was already being called the deadliest Ukrainian strike inside Russia in 2 full years. Now, barely 2 days ago, Ukraine goes back to another Wildberries facility, this time in Podolsk, along with an oil tanker and an oil terminal that had only just gotten back on its feet from an earlier hit. This is not one lucky strike. This is a strategy. Ukraine is deliberately, repeatedly targeting the supply chains that keep Russia's war machine running, and it keeps finding new ways in. And according to Moscow's own mayor, this year has been dramatically worse for the city than last year. Sobyanin has reported shooting down over 1,400 Ukrainian drones near Moscow so far this year alone. Compare that to all of last year, where the total for the entire 12 months was under 800. That means Moscow is facing almost double the drone pressure it saw in all of 2025, and we're still not even through the summer. Airports in the capital have had to pause flights over and over again this year, sometimes for a few hours, sometimes longer. Oil refineries that fuel the capital and the surrounding region have been hit multiple times, forcing shipments to stop and restart again and again. Residents in nearby towns have had apartment buildings damaged by falling drone debris. And now, city officials are openly warning people to prepare for possible internet outages, something that would have been unthinkable to admit just a couple of years ago. This is exactly why the phrase "Russia is scrambling" isn't just a dramatic headline. It's literally what's happening on the ground. Emergency crews rushing between drone impact sites, airport staff halting and restarting flights throughout the night, oil companies stopping and restarting shipments within days of each other, city officials sending out warning after warning to a population that was told for years that this war would never really touch them. Vladimir Putin built his entire image around control, around the idea that no matter what happened at the front line, life back home would stay stable, safe, and untouched. Every single one of these strikes chips away at that image a little more. When your own capital's airports shut down in the middle of the night, when your oil terminal gets hit twice in the same week, when your mayor is out here posting 11 separate updates in one night just trying to keep people calm, that is not the behavior of a government that feels fully in control. At the same time, we have to be honest about the human cost on both sides here, because this isn't a video game. Real people are the ones paying for every single one of these strikes. A person killed in their own home in Kiev, 10 sailors and crew members killed on a cargo ship near Odessa, just doing their jobs delivering corn. Warehouse workers in Russia killed on night shifts they never expected to become a wartime target. None of these people chose this war, yet all of them are living through its worst nights. So where does this leave us? Russia just fired its largest ballistic missile barrage of the entire war at Kyiv. Ukraine just answered with one of its biggest drone swarms ever sent at Moscow, hitting airports, oil supplies, and logistics hubs all at once. Both sides are proving to each other, night after night, that neither capital is truly safe anymore. And every time one side lands a heavier blow, the other side seems determined to hit back even harder. Whether this pushes both governments closer to some kind of ceasefire or just locks them into an even more brutal cycle of retaliation is something nobody can say for certain right now. What we do know is this: the war that Vladimir Putin once promised would stay far away from ordinary Russian lives just forced Moscow's own airports to shut down, its own oil terminal to go dark twice in 1 week, and its own mayor to warn residents about their internet going out. That is not a war staying safely at arm's length anymore. That is a war knocking directly on the Kremlin's front door. If this video helped you understand exactly what's happening in this war right now, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me who you think is actually winning this back and forth right now. I'll see you in the next one.